Picture the ancient morning person. Sun barely over the horizon, and they're already up, hunting, gathering, working, because that's just how humans lived before alarm clocks ruined everything. Draw that picture in your head right now. Now throw it away. It's wrong, and the real version is stranger and honestly a little sad for how far we've drifted from it. For most of human history, going to bed didn't mean one long stretch of sleep until morning. It meant lying down, sleeping for a few hours, waking up in the middle of the night, awake, alert, sometimes for an hour or more, and then sleeping again until dawn. 2 sleeps, every single night. And the strangest part isn't that they did this. It's that when modern humans are put back into total darkness with nothing to do, their bodies do it too, automatically, within weeks. Stick around. Because by the end, you'll understand why your own body might secretly still want this, and why the 5 a.m. natural riser is one of the most convincing myths we tell ourselves about our ancestors. Ancient humans weren't early risers by design. They were night splitters. Before artificial light, darkness lasted 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours a night, depending on the season. Nobody's body then or now is built to lie unconscious for that long in one stretch. So the night broke into 2 pieces. A first sleep, starting shortly after dark. Then, somewhere around the middle of the night, a stretch of quiet wakefulness, sometimes an hour, sometimes closer to 2. Then a second sleep, carrying through until the light came back. That waking period in the middle wasn't a problem to be fixed. It was just part of the night. People used it. They'd lie there thinking, talk quietly with whoever was sleeping nearby. Some got up to tend to fire, check on animals, or simply sit with their thoughts before drifting off again. That quiet hour in the dark, alone with your own thoughts, before slipping back under, there's something almost enviable about it. In a world that doesn't give most of us a spare minute to just sit and think anymore. If stories like this, the parts of being human we've quietly lost, are the kind of thing you want more of, I genuinely appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing. It helps more than you think, and it costs you nothing but a tap. Now, back to the middle of the night, because the evidence for all of this isn't just old folklore. It's sitting in centuries of paperwork nobody thought to look at until surprisingly recently. The clearest record doesn't come from bones or ruins. It comes from words, thousands of them, buried in ordinary paperwork from a few hundred years ago. Court testimonies, medical case notes, personal letters, and diaries. Historian A. Roger Ekirch spent over a decade combing through this material and found the same phrase appearing again and again. Casually, the way you'd mention breakfast. First sleep and second sleep. Not as something unusual, as something everybody already understood, needing no explanation. A witness in a court case might mention what they were doing in their first sleep. A doctor's notes might record a patient waking in the second sleep, complaining of pain. Letters described plans made between sleeps. This wasn't poetry. It was just how people talked about their night, because that's genuinely how the night was shaped. And it wasn't rare or regional. Ekirch found it referenced across centuries and across cultures in English court records, French medical texts, and diaries from ordinary households, all describing the same basic pattern without anyone treating it as strange. Here's the obvious response. Sure, but that's just what happens when it's too dark to do anything else. People went to bed early because there was nothing else to do at night, so of course sleep would be lighter and broken up. It's a plausible read, bored people, forced into bed early, naturally wake up partway through. And the boredom explanation would be a tidy way to end the story here, except it doesn't survive contact with what happens when scientists actually recreated those conditions in a lab on purpose, with nothing boring about the setup at all. In the early 1990s, sleep researcher Thomas Wehr ran an experiment that, on paper, sounds almost too simple. He took a group of healthy adults and, instead of their normal daily light exposure, kept them in near total darkness for 14 hours a night. No books, no screens, nothing to do, for about a month. If the 2-sleep pattern were just a symptom of pre-industrial boredom, you'd expect these modern participants used to bright light, television, phones to just sleep through in one long block, or lie there restless and irritated the whole time. That's not what happened. Within a few weeks, without being told anything about historical sleep patterns, their bodies settled into almost exactly the pattern Ekirch found in those court records. A first block of sleep, a period of quiet, alert wakefulness in the middle of the night, then a second block of sleep until the artificial dawn. Some participants describe that middle waking stretch as unusually calm, one of the more restful, meditative parts of their day, not a frustrating interruption. This wasn't cultural. Nobody coached these people into 2 sleeps. Their biology did it on its own, the moment the modern flood of evening light was removed. Which means segmented sleep isn't a historical quirk of bored, dark-adapted people. It's what the human body defaults to whenever nothing artificial is fighting against it. So why does the body split sleep into two pieces on its own, given the chance? It comes down to a hormone most people have heard of, but don't really understand: melatonin. It doesn't knock you out for a fixed number of hours. It rises and falls in response to darkness, and in a genuinely long, dark night, it doesn't stay elevated the whole time. It can dip in the middle before rising again toward the second half of the night. That dip is exactly where that window of wakefulness tends to fall. In other words, waking in the night isn't your body malfunctioning. It's your body finishing the first phase of a two-part cycle it was built to run, then pausing before starting the second. Modern life, with electric light stretching evenings later and later, and alarms cutting mornings shorter, compresses that whole cycle into one unbroken stretch, whether your biology is actually built for that shape or not. This is also where the ancient early riser myth falls apart. If your night was split into two sleeps with a waking gap in the middle, your morning didn't start with an alarm clock jolt at dawn. It started as the tail end of a second sleep that had already been running for hours, sometimes ending well after sunrise, sometimes earlier, depending entirely on how the night had gone. There was no fixed wake-up time at all. The rigid, always early riser is a much more recent invention, one that arrived with clocks, factory shifts, and eventually alarms, not one that came from ancient biology. And this pattern isn't only found in old European records. Researchers studying present-day hunter-gatherer groups, communities with no electricity, no clocks, living close to how humans lived for most of history, have found their sleep timing is loose and variable too, tracking things like temperature drop rather than a strict schedule tied to sunrise. Waking with rigid precision at a fixed early hour isn't ancient. It's modern. I hope this one gave you something to think about the next time you wake up at 3 a.m. annoyed at yourself for it. Maybe your body isn't broken. Maybe it's just doing something it's been doing for a very, very long time. If you want to see where this story goes next, there's a video right there on your screen that picks up a similar thread. Go ahead and check it out. And if this was worth your time, it'd mean a lot if you shared it with someone who'd get something out of it too. And please, consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really does help this channel keep telling stories like this one. This is Ancient and After, signing off. See you in the next one.